WWT presents Partner Spotlight.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Partner Spotlight. My name is Ashish Upadhyay, and I am the AVP for Global Cyber Partner Alliance at Worldwide. I'll be your host today for this informative, important conversation on the state of cybersecurity landscape and how security team can move towards a robust and resilient defense posture. Cybersecurity has never been more critical, with the threat landscape constantly shifting and geopolitical tensions adding to the complexity. CISOs and their teams are facing a barrage of challenges, from volume of threat groups to rapid pace of innovation in the security industry. Keeping up with the latest threats and technologies can be overwhelming. But our guests today are here to share their insights and expertise. I'm grateful to be joined today by Tony Giandiamonico from Fortinet. Tony serves as a VP of Global Cybersecurity Consulting, Proactive and Reactive Services at Fortinet. He is responsible for all aspects of FortiGuard consulting services and provides security consulting services, including incident response, proactive readiness services, offensive testing, SOC development services, and 24/7 MDR. And I also have Chris Conrad from Worldwide Technology joining us. Chris serves as the Vice President of Global Cyber, where he's directly responsible for overseeing the company's extensive 3 billion plus security organization. Chris has built and managed diverse teams in consulting, sales, and professional services. He's an active member of FBI's InfraGard New York Metro region and contributes to the Forbes Financial Council and participates in the Business Roundtable. So Tony and Chris, thanks for joining. Let me begin by asking this question to Tony. What are some of the key cybersecurity challenges that organizations are facing today, and how are they impacting businesses?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of them out there today, but I mean, from the view that I have, right, because I'm there when organizations are at their worst, right, they get hit with a successful cyber attack. And as we go through a lot of this stuff, at the end of the day, there's probably some technology that they could have leveraged. There's probably some automation that they probably could have taken advantage of. But at the end of the day, their technology had caught some shape or form, or within that offensive playbook, they caught some technique somewhere. Now it comes back down to, I think, a people and a process issue. I think a lot of organizations struggle trying to have that right talent. Being able to build, say, for example, your defensive playbooks, kind of based on what those offensive playbooks are, making sure that they sort of line up, right? And I would also say the visibility. I don't think there's a lot of organizations out there that may not have a threat-informed defense, making sure that their technology investments are really around ensuring that the latest tactics, techniques, and procedures, they're able to defend against those things. They're getting that right visibility. So, in a nutshell, I can go on for a while, but I think it is a people and a process issue.
Honestly, Ashish, I think right now we're living in a perfect storm, and when it comes to cybersecurity, and it doesn't matter what industry you're in, whether you're in the public sector, or whether you're a large telecommunications service provider or a financial services organization. There's over 4,000 threat groups. We have nation states. We have ransomware gangs. We have ransomware as a service. We have e-crime. We have a massive explosion of data. We have IoT devices everywhere. There are more regulations and standards and frameworks that I've seen in my 26-year career in cybersecurity. Then you add 3,500 plus security vendors, rapid innovation that's expanding the attack surface. And then you throw AI on top of all of it. It's a lot for a CIO, a CTO, or a CISO to be able to consume and manage the appropriate risk levels.
Yeah. Oh, good you mentioned that, Chris. Kind of appropriate risk level. I think that's also, we were talking about this like before we started the recording. It's like, in one sense, right, you want to stay on the cutting edge of making sure that, you have the right defenses out there to be able to defend against what the adversary's offensive playbooks are. At the same time, sometimes you might kind of run the risk of maybe kind of creating an outage or what have you. Like if you're running that fast, you definitely increase the actual kind of chances of having issues and kind of challenges. And I think as a CISO, as a leader, it's very difficult to find that balance. Where is it?
No, absolutely. So, Chris, let me ask you this question. We are in the middle of the hotly contested election year.
Mhm.
How is U.S. election and geopolitical tensions affecting the cybersecurity posture for many of the companies?
It's a great question, very, very timely, obviously, and maybe you can fact check me on this in a little bit, but I think there's something like 64 elections taking place this year globally, the most ever. And obviously, the increase in elections this year presents significant cybersecurity challenges. As I just mentioned a few minutes ago about a larger attack surface, this certainly increases the attack surface. So there's more systems online, there's more systems to protect. And then you obviously have varying standards across a wide range of different jurisdictions. And then on top of that, you have very sophisticated threats and APTs, advanced persistent threats. You have phishing exercises. You have disinformation that's occurring. You have deep fake audios and deep fake videos that are all out there just trying to change people's perceptions, maybe their point of view on what's happening. And just the opportunities that organizations have, such as nation states, to conduct things like ransomware or denial of service attacks, just to cause havoc on what's going on. So obviously, it's all hands on deck this year more than any other year to make sure that we can limit what's happening out there from a threat standpoint.
Excellent point. So, Tony, from a Fortinet perspective, how does the deep threat intelligence and research help clients to stay ahead of any of those challenges that Chris mentioned?
Yeah. It definitely is a challenge to keep up with a lot of that stuff, right? Because I think there are some things that aren't necessarily in our control, right? There's one sense when Chris is talking about phishing campaigns and the stuff that you can kind of like touch and feel, right? The ransomware as a service groups and the nation state actors that are actually trying to penetrate the networks, and they're kind of making noise within the environment that would give an adversary, or that would give the defender an opportunity, to detect something anomalous happening in the environment. So, we're doing a pretty good job on that, right? Kind of being able to get in all of our sort of threat intelligence and all of our different types of telemetry to be able to clearly understand the different campaigns that are occurring around the world, and all of our threat information sharing, relationships. I think that's kind of a key sort of piece there. We'd be very naive, to think that we have 100% view of cyberspace. So as we look at, continuing to build our threat intelligence, and that's the stuff that gets woven into our products, I think a very strong initiative and strategy is to continue to build those relationships so we can share that type of information. So I think we kind of got that covered. I think on the other side, though, what kind of worries me, and sort of Chris talked about that disinformation, I think what you have during the elections and that type of stuff, and anytime you talk about politics, there's a lot of emotions.
Yes.
And a foundational thing that an adversary wants to do, whatever they're doing, it used to be when it was sort of phishing, and it's still a thing. How do I incite that individual to get them to click that link, to click that attachment? It's the same thing that they're trying to do with this disinformation, these kind of deep fake things now. I go on the social anytime now, and I see these celebrities advertising for certain products, right? And these products, I know they're not, sort of advertising. So they're going to continue to do this. And because it's such a heightened level of emotion when it comes to politics, I get worried about that. I think that's the way things are going to get sort of swayed. That's the way, our enemy is going to, leverage us to go one way or the other to where they actually want us to, vote.
Tony, I think you talked about Fortinet's deep threat intelligence and your overall research capabilities. One thing, though, that has been very evident to me over the last several years is that this current administration has done more, in my opinion, just around cybersecurity in general, with the various executive orders, the Cybersecurity Infrastructure Security Agency and CISA, under the direction of Jen Easterly, have done a phenomenal job as far as just the public and the private communications. I think we are collaborating more collectively than we ever have before, which is certainly helping us trying to stay ahead of that ever difficult adversary who seems to be challenging us every single day.
100%, Chris. 100%. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So given, the recent news and the outages that we experienced this week or last week, so Tony, from Fortinet perspective, you guys build one of the greatest technologies and have the greatest deployment and validation in the industry. And most of the customers are wanting to get their hands on your solution from deployment prior to deployment. How is Fortinet working to help make sure the clients are getting what they need in the times like this?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, I mean, we're always kind of reaching out to our customers, kind of making sure that are there anything that we can do, anything that we can provide, sharing that information that we're hearing either on the back channels or what have you. Example, I mean, I'm sure we all on this call know that once something like that happens, where it's a worldwide, issue, you're going to see those attackers. What are they going to do? They're going to take advantage of that. They're going to set up, different types of, websites that are going to be, kind of posing as, someone that's there to help, to be able to patch their environments, to be able to help them be able to recover. There's going to be phishing emails. So having that information and being able to get some of that out to, not only our kind of customers, but also our threat information, sharing channels, and then they can actually kind of put that out. So focus in a lot about, out on that stuff. But I think when it does kind of bring up another, thought, right? I mean, we live in such a fragile, ecosystem, and I think this outage in the last sort of few days or so really kind of showed us that how unstable we really are, as an industry. And I would think we need to figure out, if we talk about innovation, I think the actual, focus should be on resiliency. I mean, how are we able to, because these things are going to continue to happen. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind something like this will happen again. But how do we minimize it, know what's going to happen, and have the ability and have that innovation to be able to quickly recover from that and get those business processes back up and running again? And yeah, maybe you got a little blip kind of here or there, but I think that's where, if I kind of put in my crystal ball, I think that's where we're going to focus as an industry a little bit more, moving down the road, right?
All right. So, Chris, given that Tony kind of highlighted on how Fortinet seems to kind of handle the current situation from worldwide perspective, beyond validation, security team constantly needs to sharpen their skills. How is worldwide cyber range helping customers address some of the security challenges?
Yeah, that's a great question. If I can maybe just go back a half a step, just to comment, Tony, on some of your thoughts on just that outage in general. I mean, I think throughout history, I think there've only been a few instances where a single piece of code had caused widespread disruption.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you look at some of the notables, like Slammerworm, 2003, NotPetya, targeting Ukraine. You've got
WannaCry, yep.
North Korea's WannaCry. So not a lot. And so as far as like proactive measures and rigorous testing is something that is really needed. And I think this recent incident just really highlighted or shined a flashlight on the need for all organizations to do thorough testing and validation before deployment. Yeah, easier said than done. But to your point, Ashish, by utilizing environments like a cyber range, like worldwide cyber range, and adhering to, as I just mentioned, CISA just a few minutes ago, and adhering to their secure by design principles, I think organizations can simulate real world scenarios like what just happened and identify potential issues. They can also take a half a step back and refine their strategies appropriately. And that may mean some tabletop exercises. It could be some other things. But it's also highlighting just the importance of just collaboration and communication. And I think that's where a tabletop exercise can come into play just to make sure that everybody's on the same page and how they're going to respond to these different scenarios, but just making sure the executive teams and the stakeholders of the business are participating in these. And I think just, again, I've said for decades now, that security awareness training itself is the cheapest risk reducing measure that anybody could do, but not everybody does it.
Yeah.
And not everybody does it enough.
Yeah.
And again, this is just an opportunity to get employees engaged and understanding maybe the roles that they're gonna play in this particular scenario. And as I mentioned at the top of it, there's a lot going on. There's a lot of new advancements in technologies that we need to understand and learn, understand how they work. We need to understand the artificial intelligence component of this and how we can leverage AI in this case to help us.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's a lot. And so go back to your question, Ashish, around cyber range. I mean, this is just a prime example of an area that organizations can take advantage of these and do a lot of real-time role playing.
Hey, Chris, buddy of mine last week, I was at a conference and he kind of nailed it down the best. He got on stage and was kind of talking about a bunch of stuff, talk about something similar that we always talk about, having the right sort of skill sets. And he said something, he's like, we do really good at, as an industry, creating tools administrators. What we don't do good at is, creating cyber operators. And I think that cyber range is a key answer to getting those folks to transition from a tools administrator to a cyber operator.
Well, and Tony, you know this, we've got a massive shortage of skilled resources. Depending upon what research you evaluate or subscribe to, I think it's like 4 million jobs available in security. And candidly, we got to get more people in the game and participating. And we need to kind of lower some of the barriers to entry that maybe we've had in the past, that saying, you've got to have 5-7 years experience. You have to have your CISSP to do this. Let's people who are humble, hungry, and smart, let's get in the game. Let's get them participating. And they can leverage places like Cyber Range to get hands on keyboard, to learn the tools of the trade and become, to your point, those operators.
Boom. Love it.
And Tony, we're not all things to all people when it comes to cybersecurity. And one thing I do appreciate about our partnership with Fortinet is being able to leverage IR services. And I'd love for you to spend maybe 20 seconds talking about that.
Yeah, definitely. It's probably a really well kept secret that Fortinet, it's not just a product security company. We also have security consulting services. We have a global incident response team, right? That's responding to nation state actors, that's responding to cyber criminals and what have you. And I love the partnership, right? Kind of being able to, leverage us for some incident response. And, we don't do a lot of rapid recovery. So leveraging, you and, the rest of the team's expertise on that,
right.
Really from my side, it's pretty good. So, yeah.
No, absolutely. So, given the highlight of all the discussions that we had, I think, so what would you consider a key takeaway for the audience who is listening to this podcast that they should consider from both your perspectives?
Good, Tony.
Okay, me first. Oh man, I would probably have to say, I'm going to go back to what I keep beating that drum. I think if there is, we get so consumed on the marketing around, is these things rapidly evolving, these kind of techniques and these adversaries, are they super sophisticated? At a high level, yes, I think there are sort of, some things that are kind of sophisticated. I think the adversaries squeezing the time down to take advantage of a publicly known vulnerability. But in general, most of the TTPs that are deployed today in the offensive playbooks of the adversaries are commonly known. It's nothing new, exciting, and it's not very novel. So I think if there's something I'd like to be able to convey out to the audience here, is to shift focus a bit more on the mundane, making sure you're covering those TTPs that we're seeing adversaries use every day I know it's important, and it's kind of cool to follow that groundbreaking threat intelligence and what have you. But that's only one sliver of the pie, and I would probably have them focus a bit more on those common kind of techniques. I think they'll get more bang out of their buck kind of that way, having a more threat informed defense, based on what we're seeing out there today, what we are observing, technique wise.
Tony, we have a theme here at Worldwide, and it's called Secure Altogether.
Mm.
And if there are any takeaways that I'd like the audience to walk away with, is knowing what that theme is and really the purpose behind it. Because if we have any chance of defending ourselves against this very difficult adversary, we need to do this together.
Mm.
That's you and me, that's our own customers, it's our partner community, it's all of our employees. That we have to embrace it from the top down and all the way around. And to make sure that we understand the responsibility that we all have in giving back and making sure that everybody understands what we're trying to protect. And there's no better partnership that we have than with you and with Fortinet and the things that we're doing together from an overall go-to-market strategy. We talked about our cyber range, but there are labs and learning paths that anybody can go and visit and to understand how Fortinet plays into this strength and to help build out a stronger cybersecurity community. So I would just ask people to visit WWT.com, take a look at what we have as far as the research, the briefings, the workshops, the labs that we have, just to be able to make our cybersecurity community stronger.
Awesome, Chris. So the strength is in the numbers, right? I mean, it's just everybody coming together. Yep.
Yep. Now, appreciate both of you for your time and a wonderful conversation. Thank you.